And hello again from Fox News in Washington. Donald Trump's inaugural celebration was barely over when hundreds of thousands of women took to the streets of Washington and cities around the world to protest against the president. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump went to the CIA to repair a rift with the intelligence community, but also attack the news media. An attack his press secretary, Sean Spicer, continued last night. In a moment, we'll have an exclusive interview with new White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. But first, let's bring in Fox News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts with the continuing debate over the Trump presidency. John.
Chris, good morning to you. It was quite an afternoon yesterday in the Trump administration, the new Trump administration, showing that it is quickly going to push back hard against any press reports that are either incorrect or even not to their liking. In his first official statement from the Brady briefing room yesterday, Press Secretary Sean Spicer ripped the press for a false report that President Trump had removed the bust of MLK from the Oval Office and for reports that the crowd for Trump's inauguration appeared far smaller than those of President Obama in 2009.
These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration are shameful and wrong.
It was a theme that his boss had hit on earlier, speaking to 400 employees at the CIA. Despite his repeated statements calling into question the quality of U.S. intelligence, President Trump insisted any feud with the intelligence community was a fake news story invented by a hostile media.
And they sort of made it sound like I had a feud with the intelligence community. And I just want to let you know, the reason you're number one stop, it is exactly the opposite.
But the fact that he talked about the size of the crowds in front of the Stars of the Fallen incensed outgoing CIA Director John Brennan, who was, quote, deeply saddened and angered at Trump's despicable display of self-aggrandizement. Outside the White House, meanwhile, and in cities across America, millions of women took to the streets to voice their displeasure with President Trump's election at the Women's March.
I have a daughter, and, our feeling is that what we saw in the election really demonstrated an attitude towards women that is, pervasive and unpleasant, and we really need to show our solidarity against that.
And a short time ago, President Trump offered his own assessment of his visit to the CIA, tweeting, quote, had a great meeting at CIA headquarters yesterday, packed house, paid great respect to the wall, long-standing ovations, amazing people, win. Chris?
John Roberts reporting from the White House. John, thanks. We're joined now in studio for an exclusive interview by President Trump's new White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. Reince, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Good morning, Chris.
I want to start with Sean Spicer's extraordinary press briefing late yesterday afternoon, where he excoriated reporters for their stories about the relative crowd size at the Trump inauguration and said they should instead be talking about Democratic delays to the confirmation of Trump nominees. Here he is.
That's what you guys should be writing and covering. That this, instead of sowing division about tweets and false narratives. The president is committed to unifying our country, and that was the focus of his inaugural address. This kind of dishonesty in the media, the challenging that bringing about our nation together is making it more difficult.
Then Spicer walked out without taking a single question from reporters. Reince, President Trump said in his inaugural address that every decision he makes will be to benefit American families. How does arguing about crowd size do that?
Because it's really not about crowd size. What it's about is honesty in the media. What it's about is from day one after winning this election and President Trump talking about bringing America together, having a unified American public around unified ideas, not Republican or Democrat, he's ready to get to work. However, the media from day one has been talking about delegitimizing the election, talking about the Russians, talking about everything you can imagine except the fact that we need to move this country forward. Now, we get done with the inauguration. First thing out of the media is that President Trump removed the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. out of the Oval Office. This is an explosive accusation, which could have had incredible ramifications given the history of the press on this subject matter. Turns out that it was completely false. I walked back into the Oval Office, saw the MLK bust there, and what did the media say? The media said, oh, our bad, someone was standing in front of the bust, we didn't see it. Can you imagine tweeting that President Trump removed the MLK bust? So that's the first day, day one. Not even, I mean, day like hour 3. Then the next day, they put a picture, it was a big story, before the speech actually began showing all of this white space. Wasn't true. The New York Times then put a picture in the middle section showing the fact that the entire mall was completely full. The point is not the crowd size. The point is the attacks and the attempt to delegitimize this president in one day. And we're not going to sit around and take it. Sean's been doing press briefings every single day. This was a press...
this is his first one at the White House podium.
Press update. His first official press briefing for Q&A, and the press can ask him a million questions, is going to be on Monday.
You talk about honesty and say that this was about honesty. Well, there's another issue here, though, Reince, and that is the president's honesty, because two things that he said yesterday were just flat wrong, and I want to talk about them. First, crowd size. I'm going to take a look at these pictures. We got monitors here.
There's another picture.
Let's take a look at those pictures. On the left, you've got the Obama inaugural crowd. On the right, you've got the Trump inaugural crowd. Which one is bigger?
Listen, you're also not saying that picture was taken before he was even speaking. I mean, you can. I can take a picture of the mall.
I was there in the mall. I mean, let me say first of all, I think this is a ridiculous conversation.
Right.
But there were huge areas. He said that there were crowds all the way to the Washington Monument.
There was.
Right?
I was sitting there. Yes, there was. I was sitting there looking.
Look, I mean,
okay.
You know what? Put up the picture again.
This is,
folks. Put up the
picture again. You can keep putting the picture up, but I can take a picture. Look, wait a second. I can take an aerial picture right now, Chris. And I can say, look at the difference. If you're not comparing apples to apples, it doesn't matter.
I'm telling you that there were huge
you can keep telling me what you want
here.
to tell me.
All right,
the point is that instead of talking about the substance of what President Trump
you're the ones who did it.
said,
He could have given a. He could have given a.
No,
wait a minute. He could have given a news conference yesterday. Talked about the agenda. Talked about the signing, the executive actions he's going to sign. His legislative agenda. He talks about crowd size. Let me ask you about one other.
Wait a minute. Let's back up. We didn't tweet out that MLK Jr.'s bus was removed from the Oval Office. We didn't.
The reporter made a mistake. Wait a minute. The reporter made a mistake. He apologized, and Spicer sent him a tweet back saying apology accepted.
Right. So these are the mistakes that are made. A reporter shoots first, aims later. I think the magnitude.
Are you saying there's a conspiracy here?
I'm saying there's an obsession by the media to delegitimize this president. And we are not going to sit around and let it happen. We are going to fight back tooth and nail every day and twice on Sunday.
Okay, let me talk about another thing. Mr. Trump said at the CIA that talk of a feud between him and the intelligence community was a media invention. Reince, it was Donald Trump at his news conference in New York who compared what the leaking of the Russia dossier, said it was the intelligence community had done it, it was a disgrace, and compared it to Nazi Germany. That was not a media invention.
We don't know who leaked the document, Chris.
But wait a minute, that's beside the point. Mr. Trump said compared it to Nazi Germany.
Listen, someone leaked the document. And you don't know if it wasn't someone in the intelligence community, but some bad actor. The point is this. One bad actor in the intelligence community doesn't taint President Trump's view of the entire intelligence community. I was there yesterday. I'm telling you, it was a love fest if you were in the room. These are men and women that President Trump loves and respects. And the reason he went there first was to tell them, I don't want you to believe the media that I don't respect you all as intelligence officers and heroes.
It's not the media.
Country.
It's what he said.
Because there has been but it's also an obsession. I mean, the fact is, we didn't leak the document. That Russian document.
You don't know that the intelligence community did. Mr.
And you don't know that they didn't.
I know, but the point is, it was Mr. Trump who compared it to Nazi Germany.
Well, listen. What is it? I mean, if you have confidential, top secret information being leaked to the public,
you tell me.
Well, it's something that's pretty rotten. And I think we can. Okay, well, good.
Okay.
And the other thing I'd say is that speech yesterday at the CIA, this obsession over what he said in front of the memorial wall, what he's trying to explain to the folks there, but I'll tell you what, these were people who, after we got done with these meetings, it was very clear to the president that they wanted to do their job. They're ready to go, but something's holding them back.
What do you think of John Brennan calling it a despicable display?
I think that John Brennan has a lot of things that he should answer for in regard to these leaked documents. I find the whole thing despicable. I think that it's unprofessional. I think perhaps he's bitter. He was replaced the day before. He was not asked to hold over like Clapper was. I don't know what's in his head. But what I do know is that the president wanted to make clear to the folks in that room, and I want to make this clear for everyone why we talked about the things we talked about, is he wanted to say, look, what I went through the last 2 days with the MLK bust, the attack on the crowd size instead of the substance of what I was talking about, is in the same way what you've been hearing about me in the intelligence community. Don't believe it. I love you. I want to work with you, and we're going to be a great team.
All right, let's move forward. Hundreds of thousands of people, mostly women, marched on Washington yesterday and across the country to protest Trump policy. Here's a taste of that.
The platform of hate and division assumed power yesterday. But the president is not America.
Do not try to divide us. If you force Muslims to register, we will all register as Muslims.
Now, President Trump's Twitter was alive and awake at 7:47 this morning. He wrote this: watch protests yesterday, but was under impression that we just had an election. Why didn't these people vote? Celebs hurt cause badly. First of all, what is his reaction to the fact that so many people, maybe 1 million people, marched across the country and expressed real concern that he's going to roll back women's rights?
Well, first of all, I can tell you President Trump wants to be president for all people, including every one of those marchers yesterday. And I think over time, I think many of those people are going to be very proud of this president. But secondly, it's no different than what happened right after the election. I mean, there's the same marchers that showed up on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. And the last thing is in regard to some of these folks from Hollywood and elsewhere. I mean, some of the things that were said yesterday, I'm not going to give the person any credit, but one of the actors said that, or one of the singers said she wanted to blow up the White House. I mean, can you imagine saying that about President Obama?
It was terrible.
Or that this person's doesn't represent America. He sure does. And the American people are looking for someone that is going to be their voice in the White House, not another plasticized Washington predictable politician. That's why President Trump is there, because people wanted someone that was genuine with a pure heart that's going to make the difference. And yes, be authentic and real, which this town isn't used to.
Let's turn to what he's going to actually be doing this week. Monday, he says, is his first full day of work, although he's already done quite a lot already. Do you know what executive actions he's going to sign tomorrow and this week? And specifically, is he going to undo DACA, the Obama executive action that deferred deportation for the 700,000 so-called dreamers who were brought into this country illegally as children?
Well, on the last one, I think we're going to work with House and Senate leadership as well to get a long-term solution on that issue. But
so he won't undo DACA until
I'm not going to make any commitments today, but I obviously foreshadow there a little bit. But I think this week we're going to talk about trade. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. I think we're going to talk about immigration this week, and we're going to have a time of national security, a conversation about that, obviously with General Mattis.
Will he undo some of the Obama executive orders?
I think you're going to see more of that coming, perhaps this week, executive orders on those three topics. Thursday, we're expecting to make an appearance at the Senate and House Leadership Conference in Philadelphia. So it's going to be a full week. And this president is going to work hard. I mean, I've never seen anyone work harder and have more energy than this president.
President Trump also has an extraordinarily ambitious legislative agenda. Just want to put some of it up. From Obamacare to tax reform to building a wall to infrastructure. Curious, because one of the things that the president made clear in his inaugural address was that he was going to take the hide off the Washington establishment. Here's a clip.
Their victories have not been your victories. Their triumphs have not been your triumphs. And while they celebrated in our nation's capital, there was little to celebrate for struggling families all across our land.
But, Reince, those folks on the platform are exactly the people he needs, congressional leaders, to pass his agenda. So how is he going to work with folks who he has just accused of having celebrated, done well for themselves, but have forgotten millions of Americans?
Well, I think that some of those folks, especially the majority in the House and the Senate, feel the same way, that they can't get their agenda done. They're blocked. Look what's happening with our cabinet. I mean, you have Mike Pompeo. You have people that we need for the security of this country that are sitting around languishing in the Senate because we can't get unanimous consent. I mean, we have 2 cabinet picks that have been sent through. It's a shameful situation that's happening in the Senate, and Senator Schumer should do something about it. But the fact is,
when he talked about the establishment in D.C. that's forgotten Americans, is he just talking about Democrats?
No, he's not. He's talking about a number of people, just enough of people here in Washington that block real things from getting done. But it's not going to be that way anymore because we have a majority in the House and the Senate. We have the tool called reconciliation. We can get a lot of things done on Obamacare and repeal and replace, both through reconciliation and through Tom Price and the Secretary of Health and Human Services. We have tax reform that we finally can get through. And working with Paul Ryan and leadership and the team that President Trump has put together has given us a formula to finally get big things done in this country.
Finally, give us a little color. How is President Trump adjusting to the White House? What were his first moments like in the Oval Office?
I think it's pretty inspiring. I think when he walked in, I think it's something that's enormous. And I think the weight of that enormity was felt by him. He's still the same person, remarkably very consistent. But I certainly think the feeling of being president, walking in that Oval Office, was something that him, obviously, but everyone that walked through there felt. The responsibility to this country and the people that put him there. He knows it, and it's in his heart, and I can promise you he wants to make people proud.
Reince, thank you. Thanks for your time on this very busy weekend, and we'll be just trying to keep up with all that you guys are doing at the White House.
You bet. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Up next, we'll sit down with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to discuss Mr. Trump's attack on the Washington establishment, plus the delay in confirming most of the Trump cabinet picks. A live look at the Capitol Dome after the inauguration of Donald Trump as our nation's 45th president. Joining us now to discuss just how much of his agenda Mr. Trump will be able to get through Congress is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Glad to be with you, Chris.
I want to start with a central theme of the Trump inaugural address. Here it is.
Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country.
Senator, he's talking about you, not personally, but no, but let me finish. Washington leaders who he says have done well here, but have ignored millions of Americans. How do you work with a president who seems to have such little regard and really some animosity to the Washington establishment?
Well, let's look at the election. The so-called establishment in the Congress did very well. We held the House, held the Senate. Republicans had a very good day. And after 8 years of Barack Obama, there are more elected Republicans at every level of government, local, state, and federal, than at any time since the 1920s. So I believe the president is talking about the outgoing Obama administration. You have to have a president who will sign bills that you pass. And the only way to change the country was to get a president who would sign the bills that will be passed by the Republican Congress that the American people continued in last November's election.
I discussed the Trump agenda with Reince Priebus. Have you decided in what order you're going to take things up in the Senate? And given how extraordinarily broad and ambitious this agenda is, are you worried at all about overloading the circuits?
Well, if you're talking about the Senate, we have this whole area of responsibility the House doesn't have. There are over 1,200 executive branch appointments that have to be confirmed. So we're starting off here after passing the Obamacare repeal resolution, which we did before President Trump took office, trying to get his cabinet nominations in place, and subsequently we'll have a Supreme Court nomination as well. So that's a Senate-only activity. The broader legislative agenda, we have an excellent chance of achieving, repealing and replacing Obamacare in connection with the administration. President Obama implemented a lot of Obamacare himself, so President Trump will be able to undo a lot of it himself. We also expect to be able to do comprehensive tax reform. Under the Constitution, that will start in the House later this year. So yes, I think we'll be able to address almost all of what the president is emphasizing that he would like to do.
Let's talk specifically about Obamacare, because President Trump says he wants to repeal and replace at the same time. Right. One, is that possible, given the fact that repealing is a lot easier than replacing? And two, as you sit here today as a Senate Majority Leader, do you know what the Republican replacement plan?
Fox News Alert, I'm Leland Vittert at the White House. President Trump swearing in some of his senior staff this Sunday. The ceremony starting, you can see, in the East Room with Vice President Mike Pence introducing President Trump. We've seen so far in the crowd Kellyanne Conway, Jared Kushner, of course, Sean Spicer, Reince Priebus, among others, to be sworn in. Here's the Vice President.
Let me say we're here for some official business, and we are so grateful to be joined not only by men and women who will be serving in extraordinarily important roles in this administration, but even more importantly by family members and close friends who've joined us to mark this occasion. We're here today to swear in a group of outstanding public servants who have already contributed mightily to a great start for this administration. This group of assistants to the President is being commissioned this afternoon as officers of the President of the United States. President Trump has commissioned only 30 assistants to the President for his administration, and it will be my high honor and distinct privilege to swear each of you in to these extraordinary responsibilities that you will accept today. With that, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very nice. I just went to the Oval Office and found this beautiful letter from President Obama. It was really very nice of him to do that, and we will cherish that, and we will keep that, and we won't even tell the press what's in that letter. I want to start off by telling you I just spoke with Governor Nathan Deal of Georgia. Great state, great people. Florida affected, Alabama affected by the tornadoes, and just expressed our sincere condolences for the lives taken. Tornadoes were vicious and powerful and strong, and they suffered greatly. So we'll be helping out the state of Georgia. We'll be speaking with Governor Scott right after this, and we'll be Alabama is a special place, Florida special place, but they got hit hard. They all got hit hard. But looks like Georgia's lost at least 11 people as of this moment. A lot of people. So on behalf of all of us, Governor Deal, condolences. We are going to tell you that this has been a very interesting few days. We have set up meetings with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and Prime Minister May will be coming over to the United States shortly. We're also meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada, and we will be meeting with the President of Mexico, who I know, and we're going to start some negotiations having to do with NAFTA. Anybody ever hear of NAFTA? I ran a campaign somewhat based on NAFTA, but we're going to start renegotiating on NAFTA, on immigration, and on security at the border. And Mexico has been terrific, actually terrific, and the President has been really very amazing, and I think we're going to have a very good result for Mexico, for the United States, and for everybody involved. It's very important. It's a very, very important thing. And speaking of important, you are very important, because with you and all of the people in this room, we are going to
do some great things over the next 8 years. Okay? 8 years. Right? Right?
Great group. It's a great group of people. And if they're not, I will let you know about it. This is the bad news about being I will let you know if they're not doing the job, okay? I'll praise them if they're doing it, and I'll let you know if they're not doing it, but they will do it. They're going to do a fantastic job. I'm so proud of them. I know them so well. Each and every one of you should be extremely proud. Give yourselves a round of applause. Come on, give yourselves a round of applause. To your family and friends who are gathered here today, I want them all to know how important you are to the functioning of the White House and ultimately to the functioning of the United States of America. I also want to thank the families here today for all you have done to support your loved ones as they've devoted their time and energy to causes of public service, including many long nights. They'll be away, long nights, and that will go on for a long time, but we're going to come out way ahead. We're going to come out way ahead as a nation, as a country. We're going to come out way ahead because I know what we have. I know how talented these people are. We're also a team. It's a team. It's a great team. It's a team that gets along. And as I said during my inaugural address, this is not about party. This is not about ideology. This is about country, our country, and it's about serving the American people. We're not here to help ourselves. We're here to devote ourselves to the national good. Public service is a high and great calling. It's our solemn duty together to protect the country, our country, this great country, to defend its workers and promote the well-being of all Americans. So many people are depending on us and on you as families, you as people that are going to get it done. So many people, the veterans, the unemployed, men and women serving in harm's way overseas, victims of crime, and young Americans looking to fulfill their dreams. So many of those young Americans, and they're going to be fulfilling their dreams. We're going to make it much easier for them. We will face many challenges, but with the faith in each other and the faith in God, we will get the job done. We will prove worthy of this moment in history, and I think it may very well be a great moment in history. So be proud, be very proud. Now, I began with this gentleman right here. I said, Mike, how about it? And he said, not even a question. And it was a great decision for me. So Mike Pence, our fabulous Vice President of the United States, will administer the oath of office. And congratulations to everybody. Congratulations.
And now the oath of office, with all those who are performing the oath and accepting responsibilities as assistants to the President of the United States, please rise. I state your full name. Please raise your right hand. I state your full name. Do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge. The duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for entrusting us with the most solemn and important responsibility we will ever undertake, to serve at your pleasure. It is particularly special today to have taken this oath while surrounded by our family and close friends. To those who took this oath, this is a moment that we'll never forget. It's also an opportunity to reflect on the immense responsibility we have to our president and our nation. When I walked into my office this morning, there was a verse on the desk. It's from Isaiah 40:31. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. It is our duty to serve with character and integrity and to support President Trump as he places the interests of the American people first in everything that he does. Finally, I want to thank not just the President one more time, but the Vice President, our families and our loved ones and all the kids that are here. And finally, I want to thank God and ask for His protection over us as we serve President Trump, Vice President Pence, and our beloved country. Thank you.
The swearing-in ceremony for the senior leadership within the Trump administration just wrapping up there. The vice president, along with the president, administering the oath to 30 assistants to the president, who will be among his most trusted advisors, among them taking the oath, Kellyanne Conway there, Jared Kushner, Sean Spicer, Reince Priebus, who you just heard from, the chief of staff, Hope Hicks, among others in the crowd, Steve Bannon as well. The president saying that we are going to prove worthy of this moment in history, and a moment in history it is certainly for all those in that room, saying that there's a lot of folks in the United States who are depending on us, listing a few groups: the veterans, the unemployed, the U.S. military, victims of crime, the president listed, and also young Americans who he said were looking for some hope and to have their dreams helped to be answered. I'm Leland Vittert at the White House. We'll break in if there's more news here. We know Mr. Trump has at least one more ceremony today. Right now, back to Fox News Sunday.
Yeah, he is a deal maker, but I think Kim is right. This was a populist speech. It wasn't Reagan. It wasn't looking back at different speeches before. It wasn't even Roosevelt. It was Donald Trump. And it was about laying it out. It was a campaign type speech, but it was what they wanted. That is what Donald Trump and Steve Bannon wanted, and that's actually what his supporters want. They want a total change of Washington. They say both parties aren't working, and the message was to the establishment, this is a new deal. This is how we are going to run this place, and in order to get from point A to point B, we're going to have to break some China.
But he painted a pretty dark picture of the Washington establishment, basically said they're worried about themselves and ignoring America's problems.
But I mean, you could make that case that's been the case for many, many years.
Right, but how does he deal with that?
Well, he has to deal with them saying, I have the popular sentiment behind me. That's where the populist part comes in. This is why he was elected, and he was elected to change Washington.
I want to play another clip from Mr. Trump's inaugural address. Here it is.
Today, we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
Mo, a liberal Democrat could have said that, and my guess is you would have applauded it. Even Bernie Sanders could have said that. So what's the catch?
I mean, Barack Obama in 2008, we are the change we've been waiting for, right? I mean, it's not a very unique or original thought.
That's not my point. My point is, so what's wrong with it?
What I think was wrong with his speech, look, I give him a lot of credit on that speech for a couple of reasons. One, it was very consistent. It was very Trumpian. This was the message that got him here, and it was targeted to the same people who voted for him. But that wasn't a majority of the country. I'm not saying he wasn't elected president, right? I mean, he was elected president of the United States. But a majority of the American people did not vote for him. And I heard very little in that speech that would actually appeal to those people. This was a very good, very Trump speech for a narrow, or narrow's not the right word, but for a specific audience, his supporters. Will he begin to appeal and bring more people in? He's entering office with the lowest approval ratings of any president ever in the history of polling. That should be a bit of a concern for him, rather than just play to his supporters, which I think he did very, very well.
Kim, do you agree with that? Or?
So here's the thing. You go out and look in the country, while the majority of people may not have voted for him, popular vote, what is widespread across the country is an incredible disgust with Washington and the inability to get things done. And I think,
and also a sense, if I may, of tremendous economic dislocation, that people are being left behind.
Exactly. So in that regard, I do think his speech was speaking to more than just those who voted for him, because that is a unifying theme out there. You talk to the Trump people, you talk to congressional Republicans, and what they are banking on is that you come in and you get some things done immediately, some big things that people can see, and that is what is going to end up moving some people in his favor, more than words of unity in a speech.
All right. We have to take a break here, panel, but when we come back, President Trump visits the CIA and says any talk of a feud is a media invention. We'll discuss his relationship with the intelligence community and the press when we come right back.
Get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I said, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
President Trump complaining about reports on the size of the crowd at his inauguration while speaking at the CIA in front of the memorial to officers who died while serving our country. And we're back now with the panel. Well, Brett, you and I both covered the White House for years. And when White House press secretaries call special briefings, especially late in the afternoon on a Saturday afternoon, it's a big deal. It's a big personnel announcement. It's a big policy announcement. In your years covering, I can tell you, not in mine, have you ever seen a White House press secretary coming in to excoriate the press for their reports on crowd size?
No. And yesterday we were, preparing for some big announcement on policy or something, but then it was this excoriating message from Sean Spicer. One thing is clear. If anybody doubts that he's speaking on his own and not on behalf of the President of the United States, that's not true. He's clearly was told to get out there and do this because of after the remarks by President Trump early on. I think it was unusual. It was very different. I talked to people in the briefing room. They were shocked. But people at home, they said, the supporters said, This is exactly what we want. Break the China, forget it. How he deals with the press. This is the completion of the takeover of the Republican Party. And I don't say hostile takeover because people went willingly because of the actions of the Obama administration and Republicans. And part of that is dealing with the press, as shocking as Washington is going to have to come to grips with. But I'll tell you, it was shocking yesterday.
I was going to say, I wish that there had been a reverse shot showing the reporters in the briefing room, because my guess is their jaws would have dropped within a look of complete astonishment. Juan, you were also a White House reporter. You sat in that briefing room. What did you make of it?
Sean Spicer's a good soldier. I think, just as Brett said, he was sent out there, I think, much the way that he was sent out at one of the news conferences in New York to deal with the Russian allegations. But when I think back to press secretaries from Larry Speaks to Tony Snow, Dana Perino, Josh Earnest, Robert Gibbs, I've never seen anything like it. I'm just being straight with you guys. It's suggested to me the question, where do you go from here? If that was the opening bid, if that's the way you feel, if the president is calling the press a bunch of dishonest human beings and Spicer sent out to scream and perform in that manner, to say to the press, you have no credit. I suspect this is about legitimacy, that they are very fearful and uptight about the idea that they are being delegitimized from day one.
Well, you heard that from Reince Priebus.
Indeed, today on the show. But I think that this response is so out of the box that it adds to questions about presidential behavior. Are they acting like a White House that we've seen before? Well, if they want to say it's unique, it's different, they're breaking the China, fine. But they're also hurting their standing, I think, not only with the press, but with the American people.
Well, there's another aspect to what happened yesterday that, to me, is even more troubling, and that is that the president said several things that just weren't true. First of all, at the CIA, he said that all the reports of his rift with the intelligence community were a media invention. As I discussed with Reince Priebus, that's not true. I mean, he was the one who said it was disgraceful what the intelligence community did and compared it to Nazi Germany. And then through Spicer, he said that this was the biggest audience ever to attend an inauguration. That's also not true.
The President of the United States yesterday stood on hallowed ground in front of a memorial wall of fallen CIA officers. And he looked at the American people and he lied. He lied more than once. He lied about something of substance, his relationship with the CIA and what he has said in the past. And he lied about the most trivial of things he possibly could lie about, crowd sizes at an inaugural. We talked about the Spicer piece. There's even more troubling than that. They shut down the National Park Service's communications tool. It's Twitter, because the National Park Service tweeted out the crowd size estimates. This should be of concern to everybody, not just to the press, but to everybody. If people already are feeling a lack of trust in our government, this is not going to make it better. This is Nixonian politics in the Twitter era.
Wow, day three and we're in Nixonian politics?
On day one, on the first full day. This should worry everybody.
Kim, is that over the top?
Here's what you have to understand, though. Yes, people lack trust in institutions. And you want to know one of the major institutions they lack trust in? The media. So, the president isn't going to stop this. He feels that there's no downside to this. This is a time-honored tradition, especially among Republican presidents, to talk about the media as a foil. And the media did itself no benefits in the run-up to the election. I mean, I'm not saying everyone around this table accepted, obviously.
Well, four of the five of us.
But, all of the predictions that Donald Trump could not win, all of the stories, the day-to-day coverage of some of the major newspapers in promotion of Hillary Clinton and against Donald Trump. And Donald Trump believes that, if he goes to war with the media, and he likes to feud with people, who better than to feud with in the media? Because the public...
But do you agree with that? Do you really think he pays no price for what went on yesterday?
I don't know. I mean, again, you have to believe that the American public has more trust in the media than they do in the new president. And I'm not sure that's a clear-cut bet.
I will just say that in the campaign, there was, towards the end, this thought, here comes the pivot. Here's the pivot where he turns more presidential. Right. And, it just can't come. He went to the teleprompter at the end. Then he gets to be president-elect, and he says sometimes presidential is going to look different. I'm going to do presidential different. Well, if people are looking for it to be different, I don't think it's going to happen. The one issue is that when he goes on the riffs, words do matter. And Eisenhower said less is more back in his day from the Oval Office. So it's not just the U.S. and his supporters who are looking at it, but there are countries around the world who are analyzing every word and what they mean.
And Juan, I wonder whether President Trump, far be it from me to tell him what to do or who's right, but I think that he thinks because he won that he didn't pay any price during the campaign. But you look back at some of the moments when he got into the fight with the Gold Star family, when he went after the Mexican-American judge, he did pay a price. Yes, he ended up winning the election in the end, some would say because Hillary Clinton was a bad candidate, but you can't defy the laws of political gravity forever.
No, and what's intriguing to me is traditionally an inaugural speech really is sort of a unifying effort by the victor, saying, come together, America, I am your president, I am your leader. In giving the speech that he gave and the behavior that he's displayed and his press secretary displayed on the very first day, I think it is a defiance, I think it's fist pumping, I think it's very proud, okay, but there's no sense in which, oh my gosh, look at all those protesters in the street. Oh my gosh, I acknowledge that there are some issues here and I want to bring us together. I just don't see that. I mean, we were talking about press secretaries earlier. I used to get calls from press secretaries, White House press secretaries, and they'd be like, why did that story leak? You're out of the loop. We're not, very personal. The idea that you would stand and lecture the whole American press, no matter how badly they may think of us, Kim, we play an important role in American democracy, and you can't just throw the whole thing out. I just felt like, wow, what is going on? It made me concerned.
15 seconds. Should he be concerned?
Look, I think that Donald Trump is not going to, he's comparing himself to his predecessor. It's not about unity, the words, it's about his actions in the end.
He's going to figure out a way to win.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this for a while, my guess is. Thank you, panel. See you all next Sunday. And all that on the first